So LAFC, feels like you guys been around forever, but here you are. It's only your fourth season. We value the club $860 million, number one among all MLS clubs. You guys, do we get the number right, and do we get the order right?
Good, Peter.
No. I'm too smart. I've been in this damn game too long not to lead.
I definitely think you got the order right. I think LAFC, certainly in our view, is the premier team in the league. I think we have a great soccer-specific stadium where we've invested probably more than anybody. I think we have a roster that's very competitive. We went on the field. And we have just a terrific emotional connection with our fans. I think the experience at the stadium is, they tell us, probably the best sports experience in Los Angeles. The games are sold out. We have some other assets. We do like 15 concerts a year. We do movie premieres. We have great digital billboards. We have some other assets that come to the table. And I'm not smart enough to know if the valuation's exactly on. Is it too high? Is it too low? I don't really know, but I think you got the order right.
Fair enough. I talked to Larry Friedman about this. I mean, you guys get a lot of attention for the celebrities that are part of your ownership group, but Larry was talking about the deep roster of sports business executives that are part of your ownership group, which is a tremendous advantage. I mean, I guess if you could speak to that, where you have a question, and yourself obviously included, Peter, you have a deep background, whether you're talking about venues, media, technology. You can pick up the phone and just go through your ownership Rolodex and tap an expert in that area, right?
Well, you're right and wrong. The idea is you bring your own experience and intellectual capital to your partners, to Larry and Bennett and Brandon and the whole organization. And you have reputational capital you can reach into, whether it's the Dodgers or the Warriors or our esports team. And you also have the media touches. So you always want to bring, other than just financial capital, there's other kinds of capital that are really important to your management group, your ownership group, and to the fans for sure. Because at the end of the day, the business we're in is location-based entertainment. We have to get butts in seats. We have to provide, in a competitive market, a real pull, a real attraction to fans to come and come again and really get a great experience in the venue. That's our main job. Winning on the field is also an important job. Being competitive is also an important job. But we have to have both the attitude and aptitude of both those sides to make it work. It is, after all, not called show. It's called show business.
Well, I mean, you point out the market. I mean, you guys are in a very crowded market. You're talking about pro sports, college sports. You got the beach. I mean, so how do you carve out a niche for LAFC to make an engaging product that people want to be a part of?
Larry, you want to try that?
Sure. Look, I think in our case, a lot of it's about authenticity. We're obviously in a great market. We know it's a diverse market. But we've also known that other soccer teams have failed there. So you have to do it right. I think in our case, the secret sauce was co-creating it with our fans, certainly our super fans, our supporters. We started off with a small group. We did everything from send them to Dortmund to see what the folks in the yellow wall are like. We did drum and song sessions in the parking lots when the stadium was being built. And on day one, it was incredible. Next thing you knew, we had thousands of people in the North End chanting and singing. And I think that atmosphere and I think that emotional connection is very contagious. And I think it leads to all of the other fans being fascinated by what's going on there. So I think that was a big part of it for us. And yes, it is a very crowded market, and you need to seek relevancy. And in order to do that, we wanted to have a good team, a great stadium, and huge support from the local community. And we've been able to do all those things.
Right. Larry, I saw last year you said you thought MLS would surpass the NHL and MLB in terms of the national sports pecking order over the next 10 years. You sticking with that timeline?
So, yes, with the exception of COVID, which I think did cost us a year, where it was hard to make any progress. I think the big question is surpass on which metric. Well, we never really talked about which metric that is. Right. And there's a lot of different metrics. There's popularity, there's revenues, there's TV ratings, there's value of the teams. I looked at how you guys value teams. We're clearly already competitive with NHL, certainly at the low end. And we are a fraction of MLB at the low end, but I feel like, 25%, a third of their value, and we're growing. And so you look at things like the demographics. We're clearly young and diverse. I know Don Garber spoke about that right before us. I mean, the MLB has, I think, 17 years higher age for their average age, 57 versus 40. That's a major difference. Gen Z is one of the most popular sports is soccer. We know we're going to be behind football and basketball, but we're the next most popular for the young folks, and it's very diverse. So I think if you look at it all and you look at what makes our sport unique, club and country is a very different thing in soccer than you see in the other sports. The academies, where you're bringing in kids who are 11 years old and training them to be professionals and then signing up as professionals at 16 from your area, from your homegrown area. These are all fascinating things that the sports fans getting used to. And then they're coming to our stadiums and the experience is like no other. And by the way, it doesn't hurt that we're 2 hours in and out, right? Baseball tends to drag. These games are long. So I think between the World Cup, between the media deals, which need to get higher, and then reinvest that in rosters, I think we're going to get there. But I'll hold off on the exact metrics to give myself some wiggle room.
Fair enough. You brought up TV and everybody's trying to figure out what the TV landscape's looking like, and streaming will certainly be a part of that. And Peter, I'm wondering maybe if you could address you guys in terms of MLS clubs who are certainly out front in that with your deal with YouTube, which you signed right out of the gates when the franchise came aboard in 2018 to play. I guess if you could speak to that, now you're back on linear TV, if you could speak to that experience in terms of what you thought worked and then what didn't necessarily work as a streaming product for your club.
I'm not Karnak. I can't predict all the forces that are working this thing. But one force you can really predict is that we're going to have a one-to-one relationship with our fans, and streaming is the way to have that one-to-one relationship. You're not only it's not just one way; it's two ways, and you're interactive with them, and that relationship capital trumps all of the other elements in the other kinds of media. While you crowdsource around national TV and other kinds of broadcast media, the individual media, which looks like the plot du jour, is going to be what everybody does. When you have a whole host of games, a continuity of programs over 8 or 9 month season, you are a force to be reckoned with. And every one of the media companies knows that is a critical aspect. Continuity programming, where you're covered on the news, where you're covered on the sports page, where you don't just have audiences, you have fans. They're ignited by it. And the idea is this media is very different than other media. Movies are streamed and television shows are streamed. But remember, sports are different. The sport fan, even watching on television, I say television, even on a computer, the sports fan is an active participant in the outcome. He or she believes they make a difference. And in the actual theater of the game, they do make a difference. So the idea is we occupy a unique asset. Now, how it'll be exploited and what the best form of it'll be, whether it's single purchases, whether it's a bundle, whether it's all streamed, all games, I can't answer that question. I'm not a seer, but I can say this: the future is bright. You have to just get a little lucky, like always, and not pick something too early that you're going to have to sit on the sidelines. My own opinion is that the media rights will become unbelievably valuable for MLS and for our team.
Okay. I hear from a lot of people, they talk about for MLS to catch up, they got to spend more money, got to raise the talent level to compete with other clubs. Do you guys think that's a fair assessment?
Look, I think that's always fair. I don't think it's a salary cap problem per se or self-imposed limits. I think it's a revenue issue. We have to keep, pursuing the slow growth dynamic. You can't overdo it, or you might be like the NASL. But you have to continue to move the revenue needle, media rights and otherwise. I think sports gambling is going to do a lot for us, which is one of the reasons streaming is going to be very exciting. And then as you increase your media rights and other rights, including sponsorships, Adidas, for example, was a huge sponsorship for the league. And then you take that money and you reinvest it in better rosters. I don't think you can get ahead of yourself. And as you improve the roster, it moves the needle. So it becomes a flywheel. And I will say, I think we've become, even only in the last 5-6 years, competitive in South America with those players. So now players throughout South America look at the MLS as a wonderful place to be versus their home countries. I think the same thing's happening in Africa, but it hasn't happened yet in Europe because Europe media revenues are much higher. So I feel like we're kind of slowly, methodically, improving our where we stand in different parts of the world, and we just have to keep doing it.
Got it. Peter, I'm wondering, we're seeing a lot of teams use their clubs, excuse me, as that kind of tentpole item as they move into other related businesses, whether that's media or obviously real estate developments. And you guys have done it with the Warriors. There's talk about what the Dodgers might do. As we look forward with LAFC out again, I'm going to make you play Karnak here. We look out 10, 20 years. I mean, how do you take LAFC and then, the success that the brand has had already? Are there other areas that you guys look at? And Larry, feel free to chime in too. Are there other areas that you can take that brand again as we look out way down the road?
I would say Larry is a builder, and his partners, all of our partners are builders, and have built all kinds of enterprises in media, in real estate, in finance, everywhere. And so those are the resources that are going to be used. We have to act locally. We have to build our team. We have to build our relationship with our fans. We have to create a very vibrant, location-based entertainment experience. That's really game one. We have to build that. When we build that relationship with our fans, other opportunities exist. And I think also when we become more robust with our financial structure with the team itself, other opportunities like they do with the other teams. But I think the idea is really, for my opinion, is we have to stay with our knitting. We have to build the foundation of our sport in our city fundamentally strong. We have to resonate with it, build it. We have to make sure that we are front of mind share with all the fans. Because remember, there are, I think, 14 professional type teams, big ones, in Los Angeles. This isn't like some market in Toulouse or something. This is 14 teams competing for attention and intention and dollars. You got to keep your eye on that prize. You take your eye off that prize. We decided strategically to move downtown on Figueroa, the main street, which is anchored by the Dodgers, the Lakers, and us on the other end. So we decided to be of the city of Los Angeles. We had a mantra. We're the people and the team of this city. And that's what we have to do. And I think that if we keep our eye on that prize, we'll be fine.
Hey, Kurt, let me jump in here for a second because I know Peter has a hard stop. He's got to catch a flight. So, Peter, we do appreciate that. I'm just wondering with Karnak, how many MLS fans, knowing the average age is so low, they have no idea what Carson is. And then, Larry, you mentioned the NASL. How many MLS fans even know who Giorgio Chinaglia is? I was at Giant Stadium for number 9 scoring his goals. But, we're not too sure. So, Larry, why don't you stick around for a couple of minutes? Peter, we know you have to go. So thanks so much. We do appreciate it. And by the way, I'm sure I'm going to get a text message from Jerry Cardinale taking a shot at Toulouse. He's going to say, what is going on? I bought that team for a reason. He's going to, Peter, give me a break.
Hey, Larry, don't just remember one thing. Don't give up any of the secrets, no matter how they brought it. No secrets.
All right.
I know we have the capability to cut Peter off when he's trying to, limit what we do. Yeah, Larry, let me just ask you, he was talking about all those things. These clubs nowadays, and then I'll turn it back to you, Kurt, but clubs nowadays are platform companies. Nobody exists in just being a team anymore. You are the centerpiece of a media play, a real estate play, a tech play, an incubator play. How do you see it all burgeoning and then inflating the valuations even further?
So let me first say that the community is the big part of it for us. And so our foundation, which is obviously not a for-profit, it's a not-for-profit, but the LAFC Foundation is part of the footprint and a very important part and allows us to get out into the community, put futsal courts into schools, et cetera. And it's all part of building the brand, It's all part of expanding the geography. So in our case, I'm a private equity guy in my day job. So first thing you have to do is be open to equity deals and to investments. So I think Peter's right. We need to stick to our knitting for a while. We need to make that work. But ultimately, we're going to, try a few things, entrepreneurial things where we take equity instead of cash from sponsors and try to help build out their businesses to the extent they're small. And then over time, we'd like to think we can make some investments and put our name on some things. But, first we have to really become much more well-known in LA. Everyone kind of tells us how great we're doing. The reality is it's still a minority of people that know us in Los Angeles. And we know that. So we have to continue to build. We just cut a deal with Angel City, which is the NWSL team in Los Angeles, and they're going to play in our stadium. And yes, we'll make a few bucks, but the most important thing is it's going to bring in a whole new set of fans into our stadium and get to know us. So we're at the early stages of that. But yeah, 10 years from now, I'd be disappointed if we don't have some nice equity positions and things outside of just our soccer team and our stadium.
Right. Well, so that's the upside we're talking about. You're saying only a few people. You have a small sliver of the market right now, so you have tremendous upside. Just a couple of quick more things, and we'll let you go. Any updates on the stadium naming rights process? Where you guys are and started getting a new name?
Yeah, so we have about a dozen folks working. Obviously, COVID really put a pause on things for two reasons. Number one, the companies wanted to take a pause and kind of see how COVID played out in their own businesses. And number two, our best marketing ability is to take someone to a game. Anytime we take sponsors to a game, it gets a lot easier. And we weren't able to bring any fans to games until June. So we really had to start back up. So we have some really interesting groups looking at us, everybody from, the usual suspects in, car companies and the like, big companies, financial services companies, but we also have some real entrepreneurial companies. It seems like we have more startups and billion-dollar unicorns than ever in our economy. And some of them are establishing their brands. And so they look at things like this. So it's a really interesting group of folks. We hope to get something done, hopefully by the end of the year. But it literally just started coming back over the last, 4 to 6 weeks.
Right. And the last one, you guys are hosting the All-Star game next month. I guess I'm wondering, what can we expect at your stadium? And then also what that means for the brand, how that helps you guys.
So look, I think the most important thing you can expect is passion. I mean, the great thing about any time the USA plays Mexico is you have a lot of passion. Ironically for us, our supporters, who are Angelinos and huge LAFC supporters, our real hardcore supporters, have a lot of Mexican teams they follow. And when the Mexican national team plays, sometimes some of our fans root for them over the U.S. national team. So it's not always obvious who folks are rooting for, but what you're going to get is the passion. So I think Los Angeles is the perfect market for it. Obviously, our demographics work really well. I don't think the Liga MX has had an all-star team before, so I think people are really intrigued about it and excited about it. And I think most importantly, I think the players are going to care who wins. I think Liga MX, the perception has been that they have definitely dominated MLS and things like the CONCACAF Champions League for a while. And over the last few years, some of their best players have been coming to the MLS. Our ability to pay players is starting to exceed them. For a long time, they had much more expensive rosters, et cetera. I think Liga MX sees us passing them. So they're not going to want to let that go and not win the All-Star game. And clearly we're going to feel the same way. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've tried to establish our brand in Mexico. We did really well in the CONCACAF Champions League last December. We drew by just happenstance. We drew 4 Mexican teams to get to the finals, which is not always true. We beat 3 of them, and we lost to the 4th one at the end. And that had a lot of coverage in Mexico. So as our brand, the black and gold, et cetera, we want to get closer and closer to that marketplace. And frankly, it's like hand in glove with Los Angeles demographics. So I'm really excited. I'm a lifelong big soccer fan, and I love the whole U.S. versus Mexico rivalry. And I think the more things we do with Liga MX, the better.
Right. Great. Well, Larry, thanks so much. We could do this for hours. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Good luck with the game, All-Star game, and the rest of the season.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.